Hi, friends. This is Bill MacDonald with Come On Sense. Sometimes one word in an entire problem can throw your students off track and cause them to get an answer wrong or to choose the incorrect answer to a question. If I lose something, it goes away. Like in the sense of the question we're going to look at today, two of the people in the problem lose weight, which is a good thing. When you lose weight, your weight goes down. And so you would tend to think in your head, oh, I need to subtract. But there's two problems that cause many of the students in Texas to get the wrong answer. They never asked your students what their starting weight was or their finishing weight. All it asked was the combined weight that the two people in the word problem lost. And anytime you combine means to come together right now. And when I bring two things together, I tend to add them. The problem with that is that two of the keywords in the problem are the same, which allows you to add because they use the word pounds, that each character lost a specific number of pounds keyword, but each character also lost a specific number of ounces. Since pounds and ounces are two different things, you're going to have to teach your kids how to convert from ounces to pounds or pounds to ounces by multiplying or dividing to figure out what your final answer is. Now, because we're getting into the open-ended world where one of the answer choices in math could be that there's more than one correct answer, that two answers could be right. I'm going to show you how to come up with an answer using division and the remainder to find out one way to get the answer in pounds and ounces, and then to use division and continuing to find out what decimal is that portion. So if I lose a certain amount of ounces, blank out of 16, because the conversion in our page 1 of all of our test documents said that 1 pound equals 16 ounces, or that 16 ounces equals 1 pound, I'm going to say, okay, well, if I lost X amount of ounces out of 16 ounces, I'm going to be able to use those two numbers to combine the total ounces lost. And then we'll, because that represents, that line that represents divide, the numerator divided by the denominator, the dividend by the divisor, we're going to be able to figure out two ways to figure out the total amount that two characters lose. So let's take a look at something first. I'm going to share my screen with you first with my math posters. There I am in the corner with my Come On Sense math label. And so we're going to be using customary weight here. So one of the simplest connections to make, if you look at the two left hand portions of the picture, let me see if I can draw a little bit here or spotlight what I'm trying to show you. There you go. You see my little red highlight on the bread. So if one slice of bread is about the weight of 1 ounce. Well, how do I make that connection? Okay, I've lost 1 ounce. That means I lost about the weight of a slice of bread. So don't eat that bread. Imagine if you can stop eating 2 slices of bread called a sandwich at least once a week, then you might lose those 2 ounces. Or let's say you're that kind of person, you love bread. And when you go to those restaurants that serves bread as an appetizer, you're going to eat the whole loaf. Well, one regular loaf has approximately the weight of 1 pound. So since 1 ounce is not the same as 1 pound, when we're doing our conversion and saying, come together, I got to figure out my total pounds that the two characters lost by adding them, and then do the division to figure out, okay, my total ounces that was lost by the two characters is more than 1 pound, then I can divide the total ounces lost by 16, the number of ounces that are in 1 pound. So instead of just telling you, let me go ahead and show you by looking at an actual problem that I did based on a very difficult question that came out for fourth graders this past year. This is my question number 23 out of 24 questions. And for those of you that have been watching, this is the next to last question from the practice surgery that I gave you, because I just feel like there's not enough material out there that matches the level of the rigor, number one, that your kids are getting. Because as you can see, most of these questions that I'm showing you got from 18% correct on the real test up to only the 40s and 50s. I chose the 14 most difficult problems on the third, fourth, fifth, and I did that all the way to 8th grade for the year 2019. And I've done it so far for third and fourth grade for the 2021 test. And I've even done these this year, 2021, in multiple choice, as you see here, and open-ended format, so that you can begin to prepare for next year. So what caused the students to have so much trouble with the question like my 23, number 29 in the state, where only 43% got it correct? For Texas, you can call it reporting category 3, student expectation 4.8C, a readiness standard, which means that we need to be ready to be able to do this in 5th grade. And so since half of the kids in May of this past year couldn't, you might want to practice, if you're a 5th grade teacher, all of these readiness questions. And if you're a 3rd grade teacher, you might want to practice all of the supporting questions from the 4th grade practice test that I've given you. So let's take a look. Rules: read, underline, label, eliminate, execute, select. Let's read the question and the problem loudly, since we're just practicing together. Jessica and Sonia, 2 people, were having a contest with each other to see who could lose the most weight in 1 week, 1 being a number. Jessica was able to lose 5 pounds and 13 ounces. I'm going to say the word and, even though it's there, not there. So it didn't say how much she started with or how much she ended with. So a lot of students would get distracted by that word lose and try to figure out, how do I subtract these 2 numbers, or how do I put them together and then subtract them? Well, that's the first place where they went wrong. Sonia was able to lose 4 pounds, 11 ounces. So if the only contest was which person could lose more weight, then Jessica won because she lost more weight. A more fair way to do a contest of weight loss is which person lost the highest percentage of weight. So you fifth grade and higher teachers, I want you to extend beyond this problem and give both Jessica and Sonia a starting weight so that we can see, based on percent of your starting weight, what percent of my starting weight is 5 pounds 13 ounces, and what percent of Sonia's uh, starting weight is 4 pounds 11 ounces, because that would be a different way that secondary or the upper elementary would have to answer that question. But let's just stick to what they're asking, like what they asked fourth graders, which they had struggles with. What is the total amount of pounds and ounces? And so that's where the second thing went wrong. Since pounds are not the same keywords as ounces, the first thing you would need to do is figure out how many total pounds that Jessica and Sonia lost, then figure out how many ounces, do the conversion, then you can get your answer to the left. So let's figure out what we know so far. Jessica lost 5 pounds. That is true. I'm going to draw a little wall. She also lost 13 ounces. So 13 ounces is 13 out of 16, 13 sixteenths of a pound when you divide a pound into ounces. This is a way to teach it that will make it a little bit easier for some of your students. Since Sonia lost 4 pounds and 11 out of 16 ounces of the next pound, then together they lost 9 pounds. But we can't stop there. We've got to figure out, well, how many ounces, since ounces and ounces are the same words. I can combine their total ounces lost. Since Jessica lost 13 and Sonia lost 11, 13 plus 11 equals 24 ounces. Okay, so if I take my dividend and divide it by my divisor, my numerator divided by my denominator, 24 sixteenths of a pound, that's called an improper fraction when the larger number is on top. So we would do our typical division and say, okay, well, how many pounds would that be? 24, our dividend, divided by 16, the number of ounces that are equal to 1 pound, is 1. 16 times 1 is equal to 16. And I have a remainder, since we're talking about ounces, of 8 ounces left. 1 pound, because 16 ounces equals to 1 pound. I have 1 pound and 8 more ounces. So way number 1, let's take the 5 pounds that Jessica lost, add the 4 pounds that Sonia lost, add the extra pound that they have together when we divide. 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 1 is 10 pounds. And there was a remainder of 8 ounces when you do the conversion. So their total weight combined was 10 pounds and 8 ounces. There you have it, letter B. But in some grade levels, they're going to ask you for a decimal response. And so you don't have to panic or worry. You can just say, well, I already know that they lost 10 pounds. Well, what would be the percentage of 8 ounces? You would just continue the division, add a 0. So since my remainder is 8, to get a whole number and decimal response to the question, you would take the new number that you made, 16, we would drop the 0. And I have a saying that when you're doing long division, when you drop, go back to the top and you multiply 16 times something else until you get to 80 or higher. So 16 times 3 is 48. 16 times 4 is 64. I'm doing this all in my head, so correct me if I'm wrong. 16 times 5 is 80. So whatever number's on the top when you're multiplying goes on the top. Whatever number's on the bottom, your product goes on the bottom. So the rule is your answer is 80. You subtract 80. That means you have a remainder of 0. So 1 pound and 8 ounces, 1 and 8 out of 16, 8/16 is the same thing as 1 and 5/10 of a pound. So if you were to put letter B in whole number and decimal form, it would be also known as 10 and 5/10 pounds. 10 and 1/2 pounds. You wanted to think of it that way because 8 ounces out of 16 is a half a pound. So there you have it. That is a way to solve it, getting your words that are the same on the same side as each other, and then being able to use division or multiplication to find out how to get the conversion like I did there. So if you are working with customary length or conversions, it's very difficult for some kids to be able to understand the concept that if you have a specific number of feet and ounces, in the same way if you have a certain amount of yards and feet, you'd have to make sure that you don't do some sort of multiplication and division before you find out how many total you have when you're using, in this case, customary length. So please do me a favor and like the video on YouTube, like and share or tag one of your math teacher friends who's working with pounds and ounces, especially when you're going to have to do a conversion like I did in the problem from the video that we attached. You have yourself a wonderful day. Common sense math, it's just common sense. It's just using your eyes to see, to say, to hear and listen, to think, to do, and sometimes if it involves food, it might be the senses of not paying attention to your nose. Your nose knows or should know when to say no when it comes to losing weight. And so there should be less taste of things that are going to cause you to gain weight, and more taste of things that might be healthy that will cause you to lose weight. And so, another extending beyond the problem would be which types of foods would cause Sonia and our other character, Jessica, to be able to lose and or gain more weight, such as fruits, vegetables, proteins versus pizza, bread, cookies, chips, sweets, lots of high carb versus low carb things would make the difference when it comes down to thinking about weight. And if they give me a math problem next year that uses a lot of terms that are more about health, I might not know how to solve them if I never make the connection to health being related to the numbers when it comes to our weight. Sometimes we have to just wait and say no if we want to lose weight. Goodbye and God bless.